You may know her best as a singer and an actor. She portrayed Heidi Hansen as part of the Canadian cast and part of the U.S. tour cast of Dear Evan Hansen. She is truly amazing and so kind, and I'm so happy to have her on the podcast today to share her story and passion for performing. Please welcome Jessica Sherman.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
It's finally nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for reaching out.
Of course. I thought you would be awesome to talk to.
I'll try.
I always ask every guest this to start the podcast out. How did you get started into like the performing world? Like what was your start? Because everyone's start is different.
I suppose very early. I did like church choir. I my mom, I lived with my mom, who was a single mom, and so I had like stuff every day because she needed to get me out of the way in all the best ways. And I loved singing, and so she put me in the Timothy and Memorial Youth Choir, which was great. And I sang in the church choir and got singing lessons with that. And then I sort of did like, I don't know, not major competitions or anything, but like it always felt good. I enjoyed doing it. And that sort of led to me singing at school and like being in the choirs at school and all that. So it was mostly choral stuff that got me started in classical music. And it wasn't until I was at Western doing classical music, I sort of fell into music theater. I was like, oh, this is easier for me. And I'm lazy.
I love that.
Me too.
So I was so fascinated that you did Dear Evan Hansen. So for those that don't know what Dear Evan Hansen is about, can you like explain and maybe like the role that you played in it?
Sure. Dear Evan Hansen is about a boy named Dear Evan Hansen, named Evan Hansen, who is sort of he's socially out on the outside of everything basically, and feels very alone and feels very isolated. Also has a single mom, this guy, and they're just kind of trying to keep it together. And then he ends up being cornered into telling a lie. God, it's been a long time since I've had to describe this show. He sort of gets cornered into telling a lie to help another family that's going through a loss. And the lie kind of snowballs around him, as lies are wont to do.
So you played Heidi in the show.
Yeah.
What was that like playing her? Because she was already created by Lisa Brescia. Did you like even have like a conversation with her, or like maybe like the creatives of like how to put Heidi to life?
Yeah, it was Rachel Bay Jones originally, and I met her far later on in the process. I did meet Lisa Brescia, who I was obsessed with at the time, and made a total tit of myself. But yeah, Evan Hansen was very good at trying to like build a family vibe between the shows, and the Toronto production was the first international production actually. So they'd really only had Broadway, a few turnovers up on Broadway, and then the tour I guess was just starting around the same time, or had just started maybe. So they tried to kind of cross pollinate, but you know there's also a distance and whatnot. So I met Lisa Brescia at a like press thing that they did, like a party thing, and yeah, like pictures, and I was just an idiot because I'm like, I think you're great, and she's like, I don't know who you are, and I'm like, that's fine. It's fair. Here we are. But also the show, the director, Michael Greif, he was very good at letting us find our own way into the story and our own way into the characters without really pushing. We had a lovely long rehearsal process, which like you never get normally. So it was great to have. I realize now I have this thing on my wrist because I've sprained my wrist, and now I'm talking about Dear Evan Hansen, and I feel like I'm wearing this to talk about Dear Evan Hansen. I'm just saying right there. That was not on purpose.
Fine.
Doesn't say Connor. Yeah, so it was I think we were really lucky in the way that they presented it. It was very uncommercial theater like. I haven't done a lot of commercial theater, but my impression is it's when you take over a role, it's like, and now the light will be here, so you have to stand there by that sentence. And this was very like, see where you go, and we'll build the lights around you. And because Michael Greif is very, very clever, mostly it ended up exactly the same, but it never felt like he was imposing it on us. We were lucky. We had fun.
How was your audition process with that show?
Endless. It was a rocky road. Yeah, I went in. I'd only just moved back to Canada, not just, but a couple years prior. So I didn't really know many people here, and I was not well known here. I'm still not well known here because I'd lived in England for over a decade. Um, and so just getting in the room was like so exciting. But then I was lucky because it was sort of an even playing field because it was the New Yorkers and they didn't know anybody. So it wasn't a matter of like, oh yeah, I've worked with them 1,000 times before, which is a big thing in Canada, which is lovely. Like everybody wants to keep working with their friends, but it can be hard to when you're not one of their friends, it's hard to like get in the New York. So it was kind of an equal playing field. I was asked to prepare both mothers. They went back and forth. One audition I did Cynthia, one audition I did Heidi, then went called back as Cynthia, then I got called back as Heidi, and then it was like, would she consider understudying both moms? And that was a whole thing. And then I went back in again, and then I got a no, and then I got a maybe we're gonna workshop you one more time, and then I got a yes, and it was like, woo, woo. So it was wild. I think it was 9 in the end, 9 auditions or 8.
Wow.
Yeah, and one like really stressful vocal workshop with Alex Lacamoire on Zoom. Terrifying. But also fun. Like they were all really lovely and you definitely get the feeling I got the feeling that they were like trying to find places for people, you know? They're like, we like that. What do we do? How do we make it work? Which is nice.
So many people that I talked to, that have, toured or were on Broadway and stuff, the audition process, like a lot of people don't know like how many times they've been in for it and stuff. They think, oh, it was just like one time thing. Not.
Certainly not for the big American stuff.
Yeah.
They really put you through your paces. And like by the end, I'm fairly sure I had done nearly every scene for the auditions.
Mm.
And I had some friends who I knew who were also auditioning for Evans. And so we would like rehearse together and we just all had kind of the same scenes. So we like by the time you got into the first day of rehearsal, you're like, I know most of this already, which was fun. And then actually for the rehearsal process, we were encouraged to get off book to be memorized like really quickly. So it helped that we had done every scene before. Um, but yeah, it's a lot. It's intense. It's also like the shows are a big ask.
Yeah.
So they're not messing around. And in Canada, like for regionals and whatnot, I think it's less of an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
But then again, the culture here, like most people at least know of most people. Like there's a lot of cross-pollination because it's just a smaller theatrical world here. So yeah, I don't know if they need to see people as many times. They're not really meeting anybody for like the very first time very often.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that.
And heaven help you if there's dancing involved as well. Like,
Oh yeah.
thank goodness I never had to dance for it. So that's a whole other level of auditioning that just also keeps going. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like you hear the stories of like the Rockettes and stuff. Like it's unbelievable. I can
it's
never.
intense. It's intense. And then you get the job and it's just as hard.
Yeah.
So they're right to test you, I guess.
What was it like bringing Dear Evan Hansen like across the world? Like did you take anything away from that whole experience?
You mean when I went on the tour, the US tour? It's funny, all the different venues are so different and the audiences are so different, but at the end of the day, it was still a very universal story and the feeling of like that the Evan Hansen message of like you're actually not alone even though you feel like you are and reaching out past the phone or like the fake thing that we do will always be better in the long run. They're just universal themes.
Mhm.
So the reaction, whether we were in like the southernmost tip of Florida or, you know, well, we didn't do Philadelphia, but it's, somewhere in the north, it feels more like we're home. The reaction's still the same. Like there's single moms everywhere. There's people grieving everywhere. There are kids feeling alone and vulnerable everywhere. And it kind of united us, which was nice.
What was the like tour life like for you? Like everyone has like their whole like experience, like, putting their life into like suitcases. Like what was tour life like for you?
It's certainly exhausting. It's funny, when we were in Toronto, the job was like, hard is the wrong word, but like you built up, your whole day was like building up, like make sure you have enough energy for the show tonight, and make sure you unwind and like get your emotional spoons back in because you have to do it again. Like the show was your whole thing. And then on the road, it was like the show was where we were comfortable and familiar. I knew the set. Like everything felt exactly the same once you were backstage and in your costume. So that felt like, whew, we're all together. Whereas then you leave and you're like, okay, where am I staying? Where's the grocery store? I don't know how, I don't know what the taxi situation is here. Are there even Ubers? We don't know. And so the job of it became the like getting from point A to point B. And we had a particularly punishing schedule, especially post COVID. Um, Especially for like North American tour, it was just the way it landed. But after COVID, we ended up doing a lot of 1 weekers,
Hmm.
and that's tiring. Like you just barely get your feet under you at your digs, and you've barely figured out what's in the bottom of your suitcase, and then you have to pack it all up again. Yeah, but like the company, first of all, you're all in together, so you just kind of help each other out a lot. And the people who run these sort of tours are very good at it.
Yeah.
So they're like the support network of the backstage, and the like, you didn't, whatever, something happened, you couldn't get a grocery store, you couldn't get food, well, there's always something. Like there's always protein bars, and there's always the tea station, and there's always a this, and somebody's always there to help you out, and like you're never just stranded. So you're very supported, but it is definitely tiring.
Oh
And depending on your role, like you might not be able to see any of the cities. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's like Airbnb and show, and then Airbnb again, or a hotel or whatever.
yeah. So I was reading, I don't know if this is correct, but you could tell me. I was reading somewhere that you were in a series called Departure with,
Oh, I had one line one time. That's really funny. Somebody messaged me from London the other day. A friend of mine from like my whole life in London was like, "I just saw you on telly." I'm like, "On what?" She's like, "You were in an airport and your kid was missing." I'm like, "I had one sentence in that show." But Evan Buelling was also in it, which was hilarious. And we had just found out, it started filming before Dear Evan Hansen, and we had just found out that each other, we'd never really met. We'd have mutual friends, but we hadn't really met. And he was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna do the show together." And I'm like, "This is great. You're the star of this." And I have one sentence. You better go now. Bye.
what was that like? Was it like a 1 day process of like
Yeah.
filming or
Oh yeah. It was like, it was, yeah. It was like you get your own way there, figure that out, be at this place at this time, here's your sentence, say it like this, say it one more time, and then bye. Like the acting job is weird. Like sometimes it takes over your whole life, but it's 24/7 and this is my existence now. And sometimes it's like show up, say a sentence, and leave again.
yeah.
Okay.
Did you find it like different than like a musical?
Yeah. I mean, there's no TV's different anyway, or film stuff is different anyway, because it's like it's out of order. You don't have the moments leading up to it. You just kind of have to like, okay, right now you've lost your daughter. Go. And then maybe if I had a character with an arc, 3 days later you might have actually worked with the kid because scheduling or whatever. So day one you're like crying over this kid, you've never even met the actor. Weird. Whereas Dear Evan Hansen, like, it certainly has a very emotional end, but you have 2.5 hours to build a relationship with this kid before you get there. So for me, that's much easier because I'm not very good at faking it,
Yeah.
as it turns out. Some people are very good at it. I am not good. Why you won't see me on TV shows anytime soon, probably.
Oh, that's why, like, because when I found it online somewhere on some site, I was like, I have to ask, like, what was that about?
Yeah. I mean, look, like jobs are jobs. And also Hanson hadn't started yet. I was doing Christmas catering at that point. And I
Yeah.
remember doing like bartending at a like a house party for some hugely wealthy dentist in North York somewhere. And I overheard these people talking about the upcoming Mervish season and what's in it. And like, there's this show, Dear Evan Hansen. It was a big hit in New York. And I'm sitting there like, would you like more wine? This is going to be really, I couldn't tell anybody that I was in it. Like, you really do go from I'm a waitress one day to like the day that was announced. I've never had more happen on the internet about me in my whole entire life. But like also, it's just another job kind of, you
Yeah.
know? And some days you just are like, I'll get a commercial and can you just pretend to be asleep in this bed and then go home? Okay. It's also acting, but it's weird.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah. Not a stable life.
Oh yeah. Totally. So do you have like a favorite role or show that you've like done, in
Not done. I'm desperate to do Baker's Wife and Into the Woods. I'm probably almost too long in the tooth now, which is depressing. But Baker's Wife and Into the Woods is my dream role. Any Sondheim, really. I love me a Sondheim. But no, I mean, I've done a lot of new writing or stuff that has never gone anywhere. Hopefully, will still, or some that we all agree should never go anywhere. Which I've had a really varied career, and I love that. If I can make a living doing new writing and like small underground musicals that are meaningful and beautiful and wonderful to be in, if one can make a career doing that, I would happily do it. The big commercial thing and the like Broadway, I'd never say no, happy days, but it was really never what pulled me into the industry. I didn't grow up like wanting that.
yeah.
I just want to tell good stories.
Do you like, new work like
Love it.
more than, like doing work that's already established? Because a lot of
Yeah,
people
I do. I like and again that's one of the things that was good about Hanson was we didn't feel the pressure to well, there was pressure, but not from them. We all had our own pressure, but it wasn't like do it like Rachel B. Jones. It's find your own way in, which was lucky because I think a lot of the time commercial theater is, and the joke is like this, so say it like this. And I'm terrible at that. I'm not good at it, and it doesn't feed my creative. Like I don't enjoy. Like I could also be a stockbroker, but I don't love doing that either. But at least I'd get a pension. Um, but like new writing, dramaturging it from like the inside, like workshopping stuff, like what works, what doesn't. And I've been in such wonderful rooms, so much so since being here, of like creative rooms with creative people where it really is like you're encouraged to ask questions and sort of say, I don't know why my character's doing this. And sometimes it gets fixed or sometimes it gets explained and you figure it out. And like just interesting stories. Like it's so much fun. I love doing that. That's my dream. And then once in a while they get a good run and you're like, woo, like Kelly v. Kelly. Amazing. Amazing to do.
no, I think like original work is also like good because like it's fresh and never been done before. So,
Exactly. And you can do you bring your stamp and then the next people have to be as good as you. Not the other way around.
so what's next for you in your career? Like, is there anything coming up that you want to achieve or anything going on
I
currently?
don't know what one's allowed to say, but I'm gonna do a Drayton show coming up, and then I'm doing a sort of Western farce at the Lighthouse Theater. I never remember which port it is. Dover, Stanley, both of them, I think. I don't know. Hashtag tour life. I just go where they tell me. Um, Pinkerton goes to Prospect, and then I'm gonna do 9 to 5 back in Gananoque. So that's fun. And that's the next few things. I've had no work since August, and now I'm fully booked until November. So that's again
Oh,
just the way it happens.
roller coaster. One minute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm directing a fringe show um, in Toronto in July or June. It opens in July. So that'll be fun. Called People Suck. Come on down. So yeah, first directing. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, that's exciting. Are you excited to direct?
Terrified. I don't know why they want me to do it, but I'm doing it anyway.
That's good though.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah. It's totally different than being the actor.
Yeah, very different. And I love the team. So I'm looking forward to working with them and bringing what they wrote to some sort of life.
So with that being said, do you have any advice to give to like anyone that like wants to be a performer or, basically anything to, you know, get through the industry?
I never know the answer to this one because it's not like there's a lot about this business that is so not fun.
Exactly.
So not fun. So that, first of all, find the joy where it happens, where and when it happens, in anything, in like the silliest little fringe, nothing that nobody sees. There's learning and growth, professional growth and personal growth to be done in everything. So even the world's worst show and terrible experiences will give you something. And also, it doesn't have to define who you are. You know, I can't remember who I was talking to the other day. I have a friend of mine. Oh yeah, a friend of mine who's taking a break from the business for a while. He was like, "Well, I've done it now. I've talked to my agent. I'm taking the days off, but I have to now figure out what that means for who I am." But like a lawyer would never say that. Like a lawyer would be like, I'm not practicing law right now. I'm going to do something else. Like there's something about I am an actor or I am an artist that it like defines who we are. And so when we're not doing it, it's very easy to be like, well, what am I in this moment? What am I? But like you're still a person. You still have people to take care of and people who take care of you and a life to live. And it can be an all consuming job. It has to be an all consuming job in a lot of ways, but also it is a job.
Mm.
And there has to be more. I mean, my answer to this question changes all the time because some days I'm just like, go for it, drop everything and dedicate your whole life to. But also, like, there's more to the world, and everything that you do that is not strictly about the performing will help the performing because performers need to be well rounded, or you can't portray anybody else. You have to feed your imagination, you have to feed your soul. And if along the way of doing that, you find something that is just as exciting to you as being on a stage, do that. It doesn't make you less of a person or less of an artist or less of an anything. Just everybody, just be happy.
No, every advice that I've heard on this podcast, it's all different. It's all different, but like it all is like aiming towards the same thing at the end of the day. So,
Yeah. Well, it's a weird business and it's very ephemeral and ethereal. Like it's not a tangible thing. And that can become very tiring. So find things that are tangible. And I'm a big proponent of taking care of people in wherever you are. Like if you can do things for other people, not just for yourself, then even when days are awful and hard, like you still have a reason to keep going and you're doing it for somebody else. And that whether you're in a dream role of Heidi Hansen for 18 months, there are days when that is really hard and tiring and you don't want to do it.
yeah.
But you're doing it for like the kid in the 17th row that needs to hear this message today. Like it always has to be in service of other people, I think. And sometimes service of other people will take you away from the business, from the industry. And that's not lesser or quitting or changing. It's just saying yes to something else. I think it's always exciting to say yes to other things.
Oh yeah. I mean like that's like me. Like I'm in my first year of college and I've done
Where
like
are you studying?
I study communications.
Uh-huh.
So like everyone always asks me because I've I've sang my whole life and I've done theater and stuff and they're like why aren't you doing that? And I always tell people you have to have a plan B. Like you know I mean like maybe like I was always thinking of minoring in it, but I would not probably make it the number one just for now. But my mind could change.
Your mind could change. And also, I don't know, don't think of it as a plan B because that's already a hierarchy. Like there's already the dream and then what I'm doing. But like if you're like really into what you're studying, who cares? Like it's plan A for right now. And if life takes you into something else, that's where life takes you. I'm a big goer with the flower,
Yeah, I like that.
otherwise known as inertia or laziness, but go with the flow.
No, yeah, I also try to like emphasize to people that that's like I love it just as much as I do with performing. It's just like I already know like that stuff. I want to learn more of this. So
Nothing exists in a vacuum, so the one will inform the other.
oh,
100%.
so where could people follow you if they want to like stay up to date with you?
Oh, they'll be very bored. I mean, I'm on Instagram, Jessica like the tank. They'll be very bored. I don't do much online.
Yeah.
It scares me, and
Yes.
I don't like it.
No, yeah.
Follow me on Instagram, Jessica like the tank. I will try and entertain you.
Well, thank you so much for coming on here today.
Thanks for inviting me. This is very fun.
I can't believe I reached out to you. I was looking back at the messages. I reached out to you in 2021.
Oh my God. And then the world ended.
Yeah.
I would have had so much time to do it then. Anyway,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
We made it.
Yeah.
Hey, congrats on the podcast. That's really exciting that you're doing it.
Thank you so much for listening and watching to My World with Stories podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. To stay up to date, you can follow My World with Stories podcast on both Facebook and Instagram at My World with Stories podcast. Make sure to give this podcast a like for future episodes coming your way. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will see you guys next time.